must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Very good morning to you, and thank you so much for finding time to joining us again. This is the People's Court, and my name is Miriam Ogutu. Now, the Kenyan Constituency Development Fund, also known as the CDF, was introduced in 2003 during the Kibaki presidency. The fund was designed to support constituency-level grassroots development projects. It was aimed to achieve equitable distribution of development resources across the regions to control imbalances in regional development brought about by partisan politics. It targeted all constituency-level development projects, particularly those aiming to combat poverty at the grassroots. The CDF program has facilitated putting up of new water, health, and education facilities in all parts of the country, including remote areas that were usually overlooked during funds allocation in national budget. And also the CDF has been plagued with a lot of corruption, and our conversation around the CDF is based on an audit report by the Auditor General. But before I get to bring you the latest on that, I'd like to bring in my panelists this morning. I'm joined by Sharon Gitonga from Nairobi. Sharon, good morning to you.
Thank you very much, Miriam, and a very good morning to you back at the headquarters in Nairobi. My colleague panelist, Samuel Tawish, and to all our viewers watching us in Africa and across the globe. It is a pleasure to be part of the People's Court conversation this morning.
Okay, good morning to you, Sharon. Nice to have you back again. And you're also joined by Samuel Tawish. Tawish, a very good morning to you.
Very good morning indeed, Miriam Ogutu. Good morning to Sharon Gitonga and every of our viewers watching this program in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the globe.
All right. So there's a story that was featured today on the Star newspaper, page 6. I'll just read a bit of it and then we'll start our conversation from that. Auditor General Nancy Gathungu has once again lifted the lead of what could be one of the greatest misappropriations of the CDF. In her latest report, bursary funds, constituency-funded sporting activities, and tree planting programs emerged as some of the avenues used to siphon millions of cash. In most constituencies, officials were unable to produce documentary evidence to prove the spending that runs into millions. Also, the audit team was provided with neither delivery notes for the sport kits nor seedlings alleged to have been bought. In Nyatike, the Auditor General is questioning some 25 million Kenya shillings that the CDF committee said to have disbursed as bursary, yet there were no acknowledgement documents. So let's just start from there, and perhaps your reaction to that story as we start our conversation. Sharon Gitonga.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And I think we've had this conversation before, and it was very clear that there's actually a public outcry over CDF, and especially when it comes to disbursements at the grassroots level. And I dared you to ask around your village of the satisfaction of how the money has actually been sent on a scale of 1 to 10, and you're going to actually be shocked. You find that these MCAs are actually sleeping on their job. Some of them actually left the grassroots. They actually moved to the cities. Some of them are actually driving, the biggest of the cars around. Yet their salaries cannot even be equitable to their lifestyle. So there's actually a public outcry, and there's so much that needs to be done, especially from the Auditor General, because I feel like even the Auditor Generals do not they actually do not read. They read different scripts from what is actually provided by, from the documentation at the grassroots level, whereby if a property is actually valued for 52 million, then that is what they're actually going to write on the audits. But can they actually, leave the comfort zone and actually assess the exact, the exact building that is actually being purported to, cost 52 million.
I think that is what the Auditor General seeks to do when they go to the counties and the constituencies to ascertain the expenditure of public money. They look at what you're giving them versus, I think they do their own, background information and all that for them to bring us this report. Yeah.
Yeah, but I still feel if I can give a case in point of one of the counties that I come from, I think there's an audit that was given a while back, probably a month ago, whereby around 52 million had actually been given to schools, to some of, I think, a list of 4 schools. But if you actually go to that particular school, yes, the structures are there, but they're actually up to no standards. If you actually evaluate, even an illiterate can actually tell you the cost of these particular schools is actually less than even 2 million. So they have to go. I feel yes, they might be doing it, but still so much needs to be done, especially to evaluate the standards and that can actually equate the amount of money that they give to the counties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Your reaction, Samuel Atawish, to this new revelation by the Auditor General?
Thank you so much, Miriam Ogutu. Thank you to my colleague, panelist Sharon Gitonga. And indeed, Miriam, this is a very good discussion we are having this morning or afternoon, depending on where viewers are watching us from. Miriam, the reasoning behind establishment of the Constituency Development Fund, Kitty, was to enable regions that had otherwise been viewed to have been marginalized in the past, really to have a special kitty where they can be able really to do developmental projects in those respective constituencies. And that is why was it the member for Olkalau then, if my memory serves me well, it goes by the name Karue, was the MP then who really introduced the constituency, the CDF bill in Parliament. He tried to do it many times unsuccessfully, although somewhere in 2000 or thereabout, he managed to have a CDF really being put in our constitution. And a certain percentage from the taxes, from the entire tax collected by the taxman in a given financial year, really remitted to constituencies to be able to develop our constituencies, to ensure that we have proper roads in our constituencies, that we have water, good water for our use in our constituencies, that bridges can be constructed by this CDF kitty, that schools can be constructed. And so, Miriam, I think it was a very noble idea that we had this CDF put into place. Unfortunately, most of our legislators really who are the patrons or the overseers of these particular projects have not really allowed or this particular kitty really to serve its intended purpose. In any case, Miriam, it has become more of a political bait where people only develop areas they perceive voted for them. People only dangle the CDF carrot to their cronies, to their wives, to their children, I beg your pardon, to their uncles, and people who are really related to them and not out of merit. Even the people who are really overseeing, people who are making up the board of the CDF kitty at the constituency level. Many a times you'll find that there are people who are related or close to the member of parliament who is there at that particular time in one way or another. So I think we needed to have another remedy on how these monies are really being controlled, because I think members of parliament have quite taken advantage and misappropriating these funds. And many times also, they are not using these funds for what is intended for. You go to our constituencies today, a record about million Kenya shillings is allocated to our constituencies every financial year. But you go there, you get dilapidated roads, you get that we don't have good schools or infrastructure, you do not have bridges, people are struggling even to cross from one area to another, people do not have clean water for drinking, and there are so many challenges that people continue to grapple with when we continue to have this money funds to our counties, to our constituencies, And now with the coming in of the county governments, of course, which came into place, or rather came into being from 2013, we would have expected that this was going to really help improve the living standards and the livelihoods of the people at the grassroots. But Miriam, as they say, I think Corruption has been devolved to our wards, it has been devolved to our constituencies, and to a large extent, it has been devolved to our counties. Something serious really needs to be done. Otherwise, the taxman will continue to pay, the taxpayers will continue to pay taxes, but there's nothing really to show in terms of service delivery, consummate to what the people are paying in form of taxes. So this has to be commensurate, Miriam. This has to be reflected that in as much as we call upon the people to continue paying taxes, in as much as the national government allocates this percentage, 100 million per constituency every financial year to every of our 290 constituencies, we want to see the leaders being put into account so that there's transparency on how these monies are being used. There should be public participation where the people in those particular areas are also involved in what areas of priority should be actually engaged on. If people in a given constituency, say Kilgoris, where I come from, feel, for example, that a certain roads needs to be made, that maybe people do not have water, that maybe we need more infrastructure in terms of our schools, I think that should be the way to go, other than these leaders really taking the advantage and having their cronies, those they can micromanage, those they can control from the comfort of their homes in Nairobi, and by the end of the day, nothing is there really to show for these hundreds of millions that are being dispersed to our constituencies. Miriam, I submit.
Very well. Thank you, Samuel Tawish. Very well said there. We are also been joined by Jevan Karanji. If you can hear me, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Miriam, and good morning to our viewers and our fellow panelists. I'm back.
Okay. Karibu sana. So I know you were not here when we were having the introduction of our topic of the day, based on a news item that has been carried out on the Star newspaper. The latest report from the Auditor General showing how much money has been misappropriated, mismanaged, misused, missing, all right, in the constituency. So I'll just read a brief part of it so that you can be par with what we are talking about this morning. Auditor General Nancy Gathungu has once again lifted the lid of what could be one of the greatest misappropriations of the CDF. In her latest report, bursary funds, constituency-funded sporting activities and tree planting programs emerged as some of the avenues used to siphon money of cash. Millions of cash. In most constituencies, officials were unable to produce documentary evidence to prove the spending that runs into millions. Also, the audit team was provided with neither delivery notes for the sports kits nor seedlings alleged to have been bought. In Nyatike, the Auditor General is questioning some 25 million Kenya shillings that the CDF committee said to have dispersed as a bursary, yet there were no acknowledgement documents. The bursary cash was part of the 34 million Kenya shillings dispersed to students in secondary schools and tertiary institutions, just in that one constituency, right? So in the circumstances, the accuracy, completeness, and validity of the bursary disbursements of 25,335,833 could not be confirmed. That's a lot of money that could have gone ahead and helped a lot of children from Nyatike there, but they cannot account for it. So most likely this money was not even issued out as a bursary. Otherwise, they would have the papers to support it. What is your reaction to this latest report?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's so unfortunate that we have corruption in every sector of our economy, in every sector of our leadership. And I think we need, and as I said in the morning, we need to find this monster, all of us jointly, so that we can maybe have a success when it comes to dealing with corruption. Because now we are seeing the future of young people being destroyed. Their future has been scrapped by these politicians in the name of political leaders who have gone out there to misappropriate the funds that was supposed to see through these kids in school, so that in future we might have more leaders, we might have competent people who will take this country to the next level. But if we deny them education, if we deny them basic facilities, and I mean education, and maybe to some extent, the things that keep them moving in school, then what we are doing, we are saying that in future we will not have a generation, and it also means that the current, the future hope of this country has gone to waste. Therefore, I think this is a bad thing, and I think the leaders who are culpable, who should be held accountable, and those who found culpable of misappropriating these funds, they should not be spared. They should be dealt with ruthlessly. The law should take its course, so that in future we might try to mend these broken fences in terms of the allocation and the appropriation of these funds. Because I think what we have in this country, Miriam, we have so much money in the hands of few individuals, and that is why sometimes we find it hard to account them, because they misappropriate these funds, they steal these funds, and they end up buying their way in our courts, and that is why you find them scot-free. You find them going around the country buying the support of the same people who they denied the basic needs of life. Because what we are having, Miriam, now is politicians coming in political rallies with handouts. They are coming with ungas, they are coming with sugar and rice and some cash. And I think this is the same amount of money that they have failed to account for. This is the same amount of money that was supposed to help our kids go through the school. And that means that we are creating a generation. Instead of breaking the chains of poverty in this country, we are still making a poverty to be so relevant. We are giving an environment where poverty thrives, because when these kids fail to go to school, they go back and it becomes a problem to their parents, and they add more problem to already distressed family. Therefore, these things should be dealt with so that we can have a way forward. And I think it's upon the parliament, it's upon us people, as Kenyans, to be participating in these public forums where these things are discussed, so that we can know how our money are being used. I think the citizenry activism is something that lacks in this country, because we have people who cannot lobby, who cannot go out there and hold their leaders accountable. I think we have also failed as citizens, because I think we feel like after voting, that is enough for us. I think after voting, what needs to be done is more critical than just casting our vote, and that is holding our leaders accountable and ensuring that everything, the mandate that we have given to them, they are delivering to us without relent and without delay. I think as citizens, we need to wake up on that. And I think if we can be so active as citizens, we can bring these leaders into order. But they know, out of ignorance, maybe out of misunderstanding and misinformation, Kenyans will not understand, or they will not even know when their monies are being stolen.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, of course, the Auditor General cited just a few of the constituencies that were able to do this audit, but I think they did it across the country. So, still in Nyatike, the constituency is represented by Tom Odege in the National Assembly. It is also being questioned over 2.7 million Kenya shillings in card on sports activities. First of all, who was having sports activities during COVID-19? Last I checked, sporting activities have not even resumed back in our schools. That is, causing our children to be jittery over there. And so, but apparently in Nyatike, the constituency was sponsoring some sporting activity amounting to 2.7. So they're saying that is what they incurred. According to the Auditor General, the management did not provide supporting documents for that spending. And Nyatike also failed to explain 1.6 million Kenya shillings it allegedly used to purchase and plant trees in various schools. In Mwingi North, the auditor's spotlight is on 30 incomplete projects at an estimated cost of 14 million Kenya shillings, and the constituency has 13 projects not yet started, amounting to 20.8 million Kenya shillings. So what the Auditor General is saying, these projects amounting to 20.8 million Kenya shillings have not been started, but some money has already been paid off. And on top of that, there are other projects that have been stalled, I think probably from the previous leadership, that amounts to 30, but they did not give them, that amounts to, 14 million Kenya shillings. But I guess the new leadership did not bother to complete those and instead went ahead to starting others that have not started yet, but money has been paid in advance. Samuel Tavish.
Well, Miriam, you see, the problem normally, Miriam, why we have these issues at our constituencies, because the politicians, these members of parliament normally feel like they have to initiate new projects, because they know if they continue with the other projects, one, it will be giving, it will be to the advantage of the person who was serving then, or the person they removed from office. So normally they will want to initiate their own projects, maybe to fulfill their own, the promises they made to their own people. And so they will want, they will not want really a continuation of the, maybe the outgoing members of parliament. But again, another factor could be they want to hide, of course, their operations and the use of these monies. Because they know already if there's an existing project which has been installed, or one which budget was allocated, but maybe the budget was not, but money wasn't quite allocated. So they know this is already in the public domain. So they may not have necessarily a loophole to steal from this particular project. So they will want to initiate some other shadowy projects so that through them they will be able to say, for example, skyrocket the billing to ensure that they get a few coins out of those particular projects. So this is something that has really been killing our constituency development fund, the kitty. And also there's never been a lack of accountability. We have never been so serious, leave alone the aspect of activism that my brother Javan Karanja is talking about. Even when you look into the safeguards in terms of the use of CDF money, do we have enough or watertight safeguards? And as far as use of CDF money is concerned, do we even ask these legislators really to provide informations and records as to how they have been able to use the monies that have been allocated to their constituencies for the last about 5 years since they were in office? That is a record of $500 million. Yes, that is about 100 million per year. That is about 5 million in every. $500 million in a record 5 years, Miriam. So, but these people do not have reports. They do not have accountability reports that anyone can rely on to go and try to see how have they been able really to carry out developmental projects using the CDF money is concerned. So I think even as we continue, of course, we cannot say that this CDF money is useless or it should not continue being disbursed to our constituencies. I think we need more stringent measures. We need more safeguards to just ensure that there's prudent use of these finances, so that even as we appeal for more finances, because 100 million may not necessarily be enough. Say to just construct a road, Miriam, even to just put up a tarmac road in a kilometer of a tarmac road is quite expensive. Say, for example, putting up wells or boreholes in these constituencies. Some constituencies are so vast, and you wouldn't quite expect that 100 million will be able to attend to all these needs. Don't forget also the number of needy students in our constituencies is also growing by the day, and they also largely or heavily rely on the CDF kitty really to be able to get fees for their education. So this 100 million may not necessarily be enough. But what we are asking is we want our legislators, first of all, to show us proof of how they have been able to utilize the monies that they have been receiving all through for the last 5 years, so that even as we ask for an increase on this allocation, we must be able to show how we've been able to use the previous monies that we received. Miriam, that way we would have had enough safeguards. We would have had stringent measures to ensure that there's no loophole that these politicians really use to steal from these monies. More often when they get to campaign, they use millions of money to campaign, to bribe voters. But once they get elected, they feel like the salaries they get is not enough really to be able to compensate or recover the money that they have used in the campaign. So the best way is also to go into the CDF kitty and do some shadowy projects, misappropriate these monies to be able to also recover. So by the end of the day, it's the ordinary people really who suffer because they'll not be able to get the services. So these are the things we really need to do so that we can have more accountability and transparency in as far as the use of CDF money is concerned.
Okay. Now in Mathioya constituency, which is led by Peter Kihara, the project management committee minutes for the meeting held on April 26, 2019, a total of about 107,610 tree seedlings, 107,610 tree seedlings was supplied, while the record of the meeting held on May 14th indicated that a total of 114,760 tree seedlings were received. No explanation was provided for the variance. So these tree seedlings seems to the tree planting. I know we're trying to have a bigger cover of forest in this country because it's really needed, and even President Kenyatta in the ongoing COP26 committed to increasing the land cover of trees in this country, but it seems to be something that has become now like a cash cow in many constituencies, as we've seen just across a sample few of what the Auditor General has revealed there. Sharon Gitonga, what's really going on here?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And before I get into your question, I would love to, allude to what Tawish has said when it comes to, the legislatures actually, are launching in new projects so that they can actually siphon direct money and. As opposed to continuing with what was actually there, and that is where you find they actually get windows to award tenders to their own families. So at the end of the day, this money actually gets back to their pockets because they have actually awarded their relatives or their close family, and which is quite unfortunate because if you look at actually the national government, this is what we're actually saying: we need leaders of posterity. We need leaders who can actually continue with where the president actually succeed his Big Four agenda, and not a leader who is actually coming to bring in their own new agendas. And then coming to your question of the cash cows of seedlings, it's quite unfortunate. And my biggest question would be, even if they've actually purchased these seedlings, have they actually paid the people that they've actually purchased from? And it's quite unfortunate. And for me, what I'm seeing is that we have actually gotten I can call them misplaced priorities, because it's fine. We might all be we actually towards towards conservation of forest by planting a tree, but for me, I'm trying to look at what are the priorities. Why do we seem to have misplaced priorities? You've heard of other counties who actually were trying to launch buses actually during the period of COVID, where the schools had actually closed down, and then you wonder, as opposed to paying school fees to people who paying school fees to the needy children who needs to be in school, because you wonder, how are you going to pay, how are you going to buy a bus, yet you cannot even pay for the school fees for these children who are going to ride on these buses. So I think for me, this is a case of misplaced priorities. For the issue of seedlings, yes, we might to all be championing towards cultivation of trees so that you can conserve our forest. But again, first things first, let us try to look at what is more prioritable. When you talk about issues of irrigation, I've seen I think another audit that cited of a certain county, I think in Kieni, that actually used the money to campaign for a certain politician. Yet this money is meant to go to to putting up irrigation schemes, because you realize that I think the president even declared that we actually declare the country as a national disaster. So I think to all this trickles down to misplaced priorities. Yet we might all things at the end of the day, they are actually important, but first things first. We need construction of dams. We need kids in schools. If you had the president was at the forefront trying to champion education, and that is why he had actually put in so much money, I think around 13 billion, so that the classrooms can actually be constructed. That is where the priority is. We need an all-rounded society, and the first thing is all children needs to be in school. Thank you.
Okay, and something I'm just reading here, I don't know if it has been confirmed, that KDF takes over KEMSA, all staff sent home. It is not confirmed. I'll come back later and I'll let you know. Or I wish you could look up that for me. You're good in social media as we continue with this conversation. Another institution that has been riddled with corruption lately. Oh boy, corruption is a cancer that we really must fight in this country. So is the mismanagement of public funds, as the new audit by the Auditor General is now revealing. The issue, of course, of starting and completing the stalled developmental projects that had been started maybe by the previous leadership is should there be laws in place? Because we know earlier, a couple of weeks ago, IMF gave Kenya some conditions. We're going to give you this loan, but also these are some of the conditions as a country you must meet. And one of them was for the government not to start any new developmental projects until the ones that are underway have been completed. Should we have such laws in regards to our counties, our constituencies, and how these projects that had been started by maybe previous members of parliament but have not been completed, and should we have laws that govern such things? Because a lot of these things are for the public good, but we see when a new member of parliament comes in place, of course, as all of you have explained, they will not care to complete that school that was started, or that road that was started, or that water project, because they feel as though the previous person will get the points for that. But should we have laws in place that will be, will force the incoming leader to complete the projects that were started for the interests of the public? Jevan.
Thank you very much. And I think that is a law that we should have been signed into law like yesterday, because we have seen a very bad habit from our leaders. After they assume the helms of power, what do? They come up with a new project and they forget and they throw under the bus those projects that were started by their previous regimes. And Miriam, what that means is that we'll have a kind of discontinued progressive growth instead of having a continuous progressive achievement of our developmental infrastructures. Because if it's a road that was done 10 kilometers, then we have a new leader come in place. And instead of continuing the road to where it was designed to go, they start their own roads in different areas, in different sections. Then we end up having some half roads done and others are already being commissioned. And in the unfortunate event, the incumbent fails to clinch the position again. We'll have the next or the third leader start a new project. Then we'll have a constituency where we have small and minor projects that are not complete, or we have a mega project that is half done. I think that is not development. That is just kind of is a mix up of activities that at the end of the day will not benefit the common monarchy. Because at the end of the day, I feel like what we need for this country is to have services close to us, is to have service delivery to be prioritized. But if we have leaders who do this kind of have a project, Miriam, we not benefit the citizens. Therefore, we need project to have those in order. We need to have those laws cater for these issues so that we can have growth and development achieved in a kind of a very uniform manner, not just having kind of misappropriate developments all around a constituency. And this, Miriam, our politicians are so tricky. They usually do this so that they can get they can have political relevance, so that they'll go out there and start bashing their predecessors, saying they failed to do this. This is what I have achieved. This is what I promised. I'm already delivering on that and that. Instead of going around and bringing development in a kind of, even if there was started or commissioned by your political rival, the best you can do for the interest of your people is to finish those projects, to make sure that they are complete in time, so that we can have a growth in our country. Therefore, these things that should be done to avoid misusing the money. Because I feel like if we have projects done, what we mean is that the money that was set aside for that project, in one way or the other, if the money was still, in the accounts or in the banks of a certain CDF management, this money will be misused, and we will have nobody to hold accountable for the money that was set aside for those projects, because the incumbent will come up with new projects. Therefore, we need those laws, and I think the IMF and the institution that gives us money, they are doing good to ensure that this money will not go to waste, but they will benefit, they will achieve the bigger picture, and that is to benefit the Mwananchi. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And that reminds me of a story that is told in my village. A former member of parliament in my home constituency, Grace Ogot, and the wife of the celebrated scholar Bethel Ogot. One time she was a member of parliament, and so she had promised to do so much. She had some places piped for water, and she had built some bridges and all that. So after she failed to be re-elected, she came and she she took away with her bridge and the bridges she had built in the constituency and the pipes that she had already piped for water. Alikuja akachukua. So since then, I think people never re-elected her again. Okay, so I don't know. It's very interesting. So fine. We've seen these reports come out every now and then. I think the Auditor General, Gathungo, is doing a good job, a fantastic job in exposing the roads that we see in a lot of government institutions and in our counties and now in our constituencies. And after she is done with, she's brought out this report, what should be the next course of action? As we conclude the show, I'll start with you, Samuel Tawish.
Thank you, Miriam. Indeed, Miriam, it will be full study for any, lawmaker, say MP, not to be in a position to complete the projects that the predecessors had put in place. Because if you really have the interest of people at heart, the people whom you are leading, you should be able to prioritize these projects and make sure that they are complete before you can commence new projects. I'm saying so because these projects are at the heart of the people you are governing. These projects are those that people wanted to be put in place. And therefore, if you really love your people and you want to see your region really grow, it is only but prudent that you make sure that these projects are really complete before you can engage in fresh projects. Second, Miriam, I think it is also a challenge on the current, members of parliament, those who have the responsibility to oversee or to be patrons of the CDF kitty, that you get elected for a 5-year contract. And you understand that you may or may not be re-elected come the next general election. So once you sit down with your, say, CDF committee, or you're sitting down with the developmental board in a given constituency, you must be able to have projects that are not over-ambitious. You have to understand that you have a budget of, say, $500 million a year to be able to do all the developmental projects in that constituency. And therefore, you must be able to really do a meticulous budget to a point that nothing really overlaps. Why would you start a project that you know it will take over 5 years when you know that you have a 5-year mandate in that particular office? I think this is also a very big challenge to us. When you get elected and you start a project, make sure that this project will be complete within the time that you are serving, unless people will be able to give you another mandate. In any case, Miriam, if you did your job very well, if you fulfilled all the pledges and promises you made to your people, if you began and completed all the projects that you started in your constituency, or even completed those that had stalled, the people will have no reason but to take you back to that elective seat, Miriam. So sometimes I think these politicians don't know how to gel with us, us, because I'm one of the voters, to understand that those are the small things that we really look up to. If they make promises and they do not fulfill, if they mismanage our CDF funds, if they cannot be in a position to complete, say, for example, projects that their predecessors had actually started, then in itself tells us that these people do not have our interest at heart. So we may not necessarily give them a second chance. So this is also quite a very big challenge on their part to make sure that they are able to start projects that are not over-ambitious, projects that will overlap to yet another term after their current term really expires. In itself, therefore, Miriam, it will make sure that we have this transparency and accountability, and people will be able to do projects within budget, so that we do not just do over ambitious projects just for political mileage, but by the end of the day, nothing is really actualized. That the people will not, or will take years and many years really to be able to have benefits of these particular projects. I submit.
Very well, thank you so much. Sharon Gitonga, after the audit, what next?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And I love what the Auditor General is actually doing, but there's still so much that needs to be done, including transparency and having an audit of the counties or rather the constituencies to see what exactly they have been able to achieve apart from what they actually report. Another thing is when you talk about priorities, let us focus on priorities first, things that actually matter. When I talk about this, I actually give a case in point of buses. I mean, there are other ways that we can actually get buses. I mean, we can actually do, they can actually do a harambe for them to get buses, but getting school fees reached out to the grassroots, to the people to the children who are actually needy, for them to actually be able to access education is actually going to go a long way. So if we actually focus on what is what is at priority, is actually going to go a long way. And then now of course the biggest issue is when do we bring these people to book, because it's been long overdue. We keep on talking about every other time we have Auditor General giving reports of counties that have siphoned and misappropriated public funds, but there's no action that is actually usually taken up against them. We need to see these people being brought to book, let them face the wrath, because you cannot embezzle public funds that actually is meant to cater for for development, and it cannot be business as usual. Finally, you realize that it is actually the season of new promises, and at the end of the day, we keep on saying that we voters are going to lose because we keep on sabotaging ourselves. We are going to listen up to new manifestos actually being given out, and we do not hold these leaders to the highest level of accountability, given that they have been in office. What have they been able to do? Let us be vigilant and wise enough to question and audit, the track records for the time that they have actually been in office. I keep on saying this. We keep on sabotaging ourselves because at the end of the day, we are the people to lose. When we start questioning the same government, the same leaders that we have actually voted in by virtue of reasoning with emotions or brains, emotions and or rather handouts, as opposed to reasoning with brains. We should not actually point the same fingers to the leader. We have actually, we are the same people that have actually put office. As I finish, there's a common saying that says, a thorn with you yourself with your own accord does not hurt. So we are the people to lose, and let's be very, 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 very vigilant as we approach the elections. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sharon, for that contribution. Jeven Karanja, after the report, which way forward?
I think we need as a country, and we need more laws to ensure that we have priorities, and those projects that are prominent, those who will cater and change the livelihoods, to be given the first priority, so that we avoid having this miscap of projects that are being stalled and that are being just used for political mileage. And also we need to ensure that those leaders who are found capable of misappropriating the CDF kitty, misappropriating money that was meant to benefit the public, should not be spared, but they should face the full force of the law, so that we have a way of ensuring that we have a country to give to the generation that will come after us. But we cannot have a country when where every coin is being taken to individual pockets, when every coin is directed to project that will not benefit the country. I think those are some of things that we need to do. And finally, we need to have citizens who are alert, citizens who understand and who can hold their leaders accountable. Because if we fail to do that, we'll continue having this breed of leaders. We'll continue having and bringing leaders who will continue misusing the public resources, will continue mistreating us while we are crapping for them. We need to be outspoken. We need to raise up. We need to make our voice heard, and we need to make sure that as citizens, the first priority is to ensure that our leaders, we hold them accountable, because we are the one who puts them in office. We are the one who elect them into office. Therefore, we have a responsibility to ensure that what we elected them to do is done, and is done without delay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And perhaps for the sake of continuity of these projects that have been stalled, that have costed so much money of the taxpayers, that don't get completed because leaders are not keen on completing the initiatives started by the previous leaders in these areas. Perhaps outside of just putting laws in place that will help in enforcing that, maybe they could come with a developmental committee for the constituencies, and then leaders are drawn from, of course, the MCAs from across that constituency, and also leaders from locations and sub-locations, and they sit down and they bring up, priorities in terms of the initiatives they want in this constituency. And so that any leader that comes will know these are the priorities in this constituency. So you have to complete that, and this is what we want you to do. I don't know if that could help in terms of accountability and in terms of continuity and in terms of just completing some of these projects that have been stalled, among others, a raft of measures that could be put in place to ensure, this kind of things do not happen. But just my thought there, but I'm sure this is Kenya, so maybe that might not really, happen. Thank you so much, Samuel Tawish, Achivan Karanja, and Sharon Gitonga for your time this morning. This has been the People's Court. My name is Miriam Ogutu. I'll see you later with more news from across the continent, and I'll bring you the latest from Ethiopia. I'll bring you the latest from Sudan and other news from different countries here that I've been seeing developing stories that I need to bring to your attention. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.